the beginning make it abundantly plain and clear that I hold the leaders of the Iranian revolution with respect. I honor them, and I consider those who gave their lives, who died in the struggle to liberate Iran from the oppressive rule of the Shah, to be people who have died in Allah's way. I pray for Allah's mercy upon them, blessings for them.
He toppled the king, established an Islamic republic, and took America hostage for 444 days. Even today, Ayatollah Khomeini remains a powerful symbol of hostility towards the US. But there is more to Khomeini's legacy, one that involves the Ayatollah quietly courting two US presidents behind the scenes. The BBC has obtained these newly declassified US government documents showing that Khomeini was playing Cold War politics while calling for revolution. We now know, at critical moments in his long struggle for an Islamic republic, the Ayatollah secretly engaged the Americans, a fact never before made public. His first overture came in November 1963, when Khomeini sent a message of support to the Kennedy administration. Khomeini explained that he was not opposed to American interests in Iran. On the contrary, he thought the American presence was necessary as a counterbalance to Soviet and possibly British influence.
Khomeini clearly understood that the Shah stood at a very vulnerable moment, and he was trying to cash in. He was trying to make the Americans believe that he is the alternative.
Fast forward 15 years and he reaches out to another US president, Jimmy Carter. This is January of 1979, the start of a year that would prove pivotal to both nations. Just weeks before Khomeini seized power, both sides were communicating through a secret back channel that had been authorized by Carter himself. And what both sides were saying flies in the face of what we thought we knew about those historic days. These documents reveal that the US was already bracing itself for a change in Iran, saying, "We do not say that the constitution cannot be changed." That meant possibly abolishing the monarchy. For his part, Khomeini assured in writing that the Islamic Republic would not jeopardize vital US interests. Specifically, that Iran would remain an American friend. The oil flow will continue after the establishment of the Islamic Republic. Also, his message said, "We will not act as an exporter of revolution." Even this pledge from Khomeini's emissary: "You can tell the American Jews not to worry about the Jewish future in Iran."
These documents reveal the cleverness of Ayatollah Khomeini. The message that he sends to Carter is perfectly tuned. He seems to know exactly what the American policy was at the time.
Khomeini is known to history as an uncompromising leader, but these documents show that in his long quest for power, he was tactically flexible. He played a moderate, even pro-American card to take control.
Joining us now from our Washington, D.C. studios, investigative journalist and author Mike Evans. His new book is called Jimmy Carter, The Liberal Left in World Chaos. Mike, I understand this book's in the third printing already.
It is, Pat, and it's great to see you, my friend.
Thank you. Listen, you're really tough on Carter in this thing.
He funded Khomeini in Paris, checks of $165 million 4 times to Khomeini while he was there 4 months, so Khomeini could get on a plane full of terrorists and journalists and have a radical Islamic revolution.
Wait a minute, Mike. You say that Carter gave, through his administration, $165 million 4 times to Khomeini?
Yeah, they did. They did it through operatives. I talked to one of the operatives who was carrying the money. He did. He was funding terror. He should be accused of treason, but he won't.
Well, Khomeini came in as a great hero, and Carter acted like he didn't have anything to do with it. But you say his fingers were all over the money.
Carter believed that Khomeini was a Gandhi-like figure. That's what Andrew Young told him. Carter planned the overthrow of the Shah by George Ball, his advisor. I met with the French, I met with the Israelis, I met with operatives in the United States.
The actions of Iran have shocked the civilized world.
There's a Hollywood story of the Iranian hostage crisis that we all know. But there's another story about this hostage crisis that's rarely told, one that's perfect for Hollywood too, if it weren't for the fact that it implicates a major U.S. political party and a former presidential administration in a conspiracy to use American hostages as a bargaining chip to win an election. Earlier this year, an article was published in the Christian Science Monitor, and that in the first election post-revolution, an election that took place during the hostage crisis, 96% of votes in that election were given to candidates who were against the hostage taking. So then why, with all of this support for releasing the hostages, did the crisis last so long? Well, here comes the bombshell allegation. Ayatollah Khomeini and Ronald Reagan had organized a clandestine negotiation, later known as the October Surprise, which prevented the attempts by then U.S. President Jimmy Carter to free the hostages before the 1980 U.S. presidential election took place. The fact that they were not released tipped the results of the election in favor of Reagan. And sure enough, the hostages were released the day Reagan was sworn in. Now this is a pretty explosive charge, and you're probably thinking it came from some crackpot, right? Well, no. The man who wrote this article, who's making this claim, is none other than the former president of Iran himself, Abul Hassan Bani Sadr, the very first president of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the man who served during the hostage crisis. Bani Sadr adds, 2 of my advisors were executed by Khomeini's regime because they had become aware of this secret relationship between Khomeini, his son Ahmad, the Islamic Republican Party, and the Reagan administration. As part of the deal keeping the hostages longer, it's alleged the Reagan team promised Iran weapons, which would be funneled in via Israel, as well as the unfreezing of certain Iranian assets in U.S. banks. This wasn't the first time Bani Sadr made this claim either. In 1992, he in fact wrote a letter to a House of Representatives task force investigating allegations that the Reagan team conspired to keep the hostages longer. That letter, along with another letter written by the foreign minister of Iran that further implicated the Reagan team, was dismissed by the task force. Despite congressional task forces exonerating the Reagan team for what would have been high treason, allegations of an October surprise have continued to persist. A report by the Russian government confirmed it, sources in the Israeli government did too, and so too did a former Reagan insider, Barbara Honegger. And in 1980, the former defense minister of Portugal claimed he had documents with proof of the October surprise that he would take to the United Nations. Unfortunately, he died shortly thereafter in a plane crash. So we can't know for sure what really happened behind the scenes in Washington and in Iran 34 years ago, but there's pretty good evidence to suggest something underhanded may have happened, which gave way to a truly transformative Reagan presidential administration. But hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Just take the former president of Iran's word for it.
That was Imam Khomeini, rahimahullah. Imam Khomeini, rahimahullah,